What if I told you that the biggest block between you and what you've been trying to call into your life isn't your lack of effort, your discipline, or even your luck? What if it's the way reality responds to you when you're not even aware of it? Think of the moments you've worked hard, visualized, pushed, stayed positive, only to find silence on the other side. The job interview where you showed up prepared but left unheard. The message you sent that never got a reply. The bank account that refused to stretch no matter how much you hustled. These are not random failures. They are feedback. We've been told that manifestation is about forcing the universe to deliver like some cosmic vending machine. But the truth is stranger and simpler. Reality doesn't respond to what you shout. It mirrors what you quietly radiate. Quantum physics offers a crack in the wall of everyday life. The observer effect tells us that the act of observing changes what is observed. Which means your presence, your state, your frequency isn't passive. It is shaping the field around you right now. And not tomorrow, this very second. But here's the problem. Most people are broadcasting noise without knowing it. Anxiety, neediness, doubt, comparison, signals scattered like static. You can't tune into a clear station if your radio is stuck between frequencies. This is why you feel stuck. It's not that manifestation doesn't work. It's that you've been told the wrong starting point. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll understand how manifestation isn't a trick, it's physics meeting embodiment. And once you see the mechanism, you won't unsee it. Reality will feel less like a battle, and more like an echo chamber returning what you've already become. Picture yourself standing in front of a mirror. No matter what you do, smile, frown, raise your hand, the reflection doesn't argue. It doesn't hesitate. It simply returns what you give it. Reality works exactly the same way. When people talk about quantum manifestation, it can sound mystical, but let's ground it. At the quantum level, particles behave differently when they are observed. Your attention isn't just noticing reality, it's participating in it. That's the observer effect. But attention alone isn't enough. You can stare into a mirror wishing to see yourself 6 inches taller. It won't happen. The mirror doesn't respond to your wish. It responds to your actual posture, your presence, the way you are right now. That's the secret most people miss. Manifestation is not about what you say you want. It's about the state you are embodying before the words ever leave your mouth. The mirror of reality reflects that embodiment with ruthless accuracy. Here's where embodiment comes in. Embodiment is not acting confident while inside you feel small. That's costume. Embodiment is when your nervous system, your emotions, and your self-concept line up so fully that the signal you're sending is coherent, clear, and impossible to ignore. Think of a radio dial. When you're slightly off frequency, the static makes the music unlistenable. But when you lock onto the station, the sound is sharp and immediate. Reality is tuning to you in the same way. The more aligned your internal state, the faster the external reflection appears. Not because you bent reality against its will, but because you stopped scattering your signal across contradictions. Wanting abundance while living in fear of bills is like smiling at the mirror while secretly hunching in shame. The reflection can't lie. So manifestation is not a game of pushing harder. It's a game of becoming clearer. You learn to regulate your state, embody the identity that matches your desire, and watch as the mirror begins to adjust without delay. But here's the catch. Almost every mainstream teaching on manifestation skips the one thing that makes or breaks the process. And if you don't understand it, you'll keep bouncing between short bursts of success and long stretches of disappointment. Because the mirror doesn't just reflect what you intend, it reflects what feels safe to your system. And that's where things get very, very interesting. One of the biggest myths about manifestation is that if you just think hard enough, repeat affirmations long enough, and force yourself into positive thoughts, reality will bend. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The mirror doesn't respond to words pasted on top of fear. It reflects the energy underneath. Imagine this. You're waiting for a text from someone you care about. Hours pass. You try to stay calm, telling yourself, "I'm fine, I'm magnetic, they'll reply." But underneath, your chest is tight, your breath shallow, your thoughts racing. Did I say something wrong? Did they lose interest? Am I invisible? Now, which of those signals do you think the mirror of reality is reflecting? the polished mantra, or the nervous system broadcasting panic. Reality doesn't take your slogans at face value. It echoes your frequency, and your frequency is carried by your state of being. This is why so many people burn out on manifestation techniques. They're layering glitter on top of static. They look in the mirror, smile through gritted teeth, and wonder why the reflection looks strained. It's not that they're broken. It's that they've been misled to focus only on surface thoughts instead of embodied coherence. The real shift happens when you stop trying to bully yourself into belief and start tuning the instrument of your body. If your nervous system doesn't feel safe, if your emotions are signaling lack or rejection, then the mirror reflects exactly that. But when you bring your system into regulation, when your breath deepens and your body softens, suddenly your reflection begins to shift. The text, the call, the opportunity. It shows up not because you forced it, but because you stopped fighting the static. Think of how a mirror responds. If you stand crooked, the reflection is crooked. If you adjust your posture, it changes instantly. You don't need to yell at the mirror to show you straight. You simply realign yourself and the image follows. So the myth that thinking positive is enough has kept thousands of people stuck. Thoughts are part of the signal, but they're not the transmitter. The transmitter is your whole system. Mind, body, emotions, identity. And here's the twist. The fastest way to shift the reflection isn't to repeat new thoughts. It's to create safety inside your body so the frequency stabilizes. Because when you feel safe, the mirror starts to reveal possibilities you couldn't even see before. Which brings us to the heart of the matter. If safety is the gateway, how do we actually build it in real time, in the middle of life's pressures? Here's what most people overlook. Your nervous system is the switchboard of your frequency. If it's in survival mode, your signal is scrambled. No matter how much you visualize or journal, the mirror can only reflect the static. Think of it this way. If you're holding your breath underwater, all your attention collapses to one goal: survival. You're not thinking about attracting opportunities, love, or creativity. Your body is screaming, "Air, now!" That's what happens when your nervous system lives in a constant low-level panic. You may be saying affirmations about abundance, but your biology is whispering, "I'm not safe, I'm not enough." And the mirror echoes that truth without mercy. But when your nervous system feels safe, something profound happens. Your body shifts from defense into openness. Your heart and brain fall into rhythm, your breath lengthens, your awareness expands. Suddenly, your frequency stabilizes, and the mirror can reflect more coherent images back to you. Let's try this right now, just 30 seconds. Take a slow breath in through your nose, all the way down into your belly. Hold for a moment. And now release gently through your mouth. Again. Inhale, letting your shoulders drop. Exhale, longer than your inhale, like you're sighing relief. One more time. Inhale. This time, imagine breathing in a sense of safety, like the air itself is holding you. Exhale, and let your body melt an inch deeper into the seat you're in. Notice how even with 3 breaths, your system feels slightly different. That shift you feel, that's coherence beginning. That's your signal clearing. Coherence is the state where your inner world broadcasts one clean message instead of a dozen conflicting ones. Your body isn't screaming survival. Your mind isn't racing in a dozen directions. You're present, regulated, and steady. And in that steadiness, the mirror responds more directly because there's finally something clear to reflect. People often underestimate how much regulation matters. They think manifestation is about intensity, trying harder, visualizing longer. But what reality reflects most quickly is not force, it's harmony. When your heart and brain rhythms synchronize, studies show your whole system emits a measurable, coherent frequency. That frequency isn't just metaphor, it's what makes people feel your presence before you speak, what makes synchronicities align without effort, what makes the mirror sharpen. So if you've been frustrated, thinking the universe ignores you, maybe it's not ignoring you at all. Maybe it's just waiting for you to clear the static. And coherence is the first lever. Now, coherence is powerful, but it's still not enough on its own. Because the mirror doesn't just reflect your current state, it reflects the deeper identity you consistently live from. And that changes the whole game. A regulated state is powerful, but here's where many people plateau. They get good at calming themselves, at stepping into coherence for a few minutes, but then slip back into the same old self-concept. The mirror reflects not just your passing moods, it reflects the identity you inhabit most of the time. Think about it. If you dress in a costume for an hour, the mirror will show it. But once you change back into your usual clothes, that's the reflection you'll keep seeing day after day. States are like costumes. Identities are like skin. The mirror reads skin, not just costumes. Let's say you manage to calm your nerves before a job interview. You breathe, you regulate, you walk in steady. But deep down, you still carry the identity of someone who is overlooked, someone who never gets chosen. Even if your state holds for a few minutes, the mirror will default back to the deeper story when the pressure rises. That's why you leave wondering why the opportunity slipped again. This is why manifestation can feel inconsistent, because the mirror is reflecting two different levels, your momentary state and your baseline identity. When the two don't match, the stronger one always wins, and identity always outweighs temporary state. Here's the key. Identity is not just what I think about myself. Identity is the sum of what your nervous system believes is possible for you. It's the automatic way you walk into a room, the expectations baked into your body language, the silent permission slips you give or deny yourself. And until that baseline identity shifts, the mirror keeps returning the same reflection, even if you sprinkle it with new affirmations. This is why some people can attract abundance effortlessly. They don't just feel abundant for 5 minutes. They are someone who expects support to flow. The mirror can't help but echo it back. So the real transformation is not about managing states endlessly. It's about graduating into a new identity, one that holds steady even when you're not consciously trying. Because once your identity shifts, the mirror has no choice but to recalibrate. But this raises a profound question. If identity is so powerful, then every reflection we're living now is tied to the identity we've been carrying. And if that's true, doesn't that mean we're also choosing which timeline of reality we're stepping into? If identity is the skin you live in, then timelines are the rooms you walk into wearing that skin. Every choice, every expectation, every unconscious signal you send is nudging you toward one reflection or another. You're not just manifesting things, you're stepping into versions of reality that already exist, each one holding a different reflection of who you are. Think of walking through a hall of mirrors at a carnival. Each mirror reflects a slightly different version of you, taller, shorter, stretched, distorted. But unlike the carnival, where you see all the mirrors at once, in life you only stand in front of one at a time. Which one appears? The one that matches the identity you carry. Now let's ground this with something real. Picture the stress of a bill coming due when your account balance is already tight. You sit there, phone in hand, staring at the numbers. Panic rises. You start calculating, bargaining, wishing. In that moment, the identity of someone who is always behind, always scrambling, takes the driver's seat. And the mirror responds faithfully. It reflects the timeline where money feels scarce, opportunities feel blocked, and everything costs more energy than you have to give. But shift the identity, and the mirror has to rearrange. If you step into the skin of someone who knows support flows, someone who expects to be met halfway, suddenly different reflections appear. The phone buzzes with unexpected help. A delayed payment clears. A side opportunity opens up. It's not magic. It's alignment with a different mirror, a different timeline that was already in the hall waiting for you. This is the power most people never realize they have. They try to force reflections to change while standing in the same identity. It's like shouting at one mirror in the carnival, begging it to slim you down, instead of simply walking to the mirror where you already look different. Reality is not withholding. It's simply showing the reflection of who you're being in that moment. So here's the invitation. Instead of asking, how do I fix this reflection? Ask, which mirror am I standing in front of? Because when identity shifts, timelines shift. And the reflection has no choice but to follow. But that brings us to a practical challenge. Knowing you can shift timelines is one thing. Actually rehearsing that new identity so it becomes natural is another. And for that, you need tools that don't just live in your head, but in your body. Knowing you can step into a new mirror is exciting. But here's the sticking point. You can't just declare a new identity once and expect it to hold. Identities are rehearsed into your body. They become real when your nervous system learns them as the default setting. So let's talk tools. Practical ways to rehearse identity until the mirror has no choice but to keep showing you the upgraded reflection. First tool, bridge statements. Instead of pretending you're already living the full identity, which often triggers resistance, you build a bridge. If your old identity whispers, "I'm always broke," you don't leap to "I'm a millionaire" and hope it sticks. That gap feels false, and your body rejects it. A bridge statement might be, "I'm learning what it feels like to be supported," or "I'm beginning to trust that money can arrive more easily." These statements move your system step by step, mirror by mirror, until the new identity feels natural. Second tool, somatic anchors. Identities live in the body, so you rehearse physically. If your new identity is confident, how does that version of you sit in a chair? How do they enter a room? Practice it. Shoulders back, breath steady, eyes open. Hold that posture for 2 minutes a day until your nervous system starts to believe it belongs to you. It's like teaching the mirror what reflection to hold. Third tool, micro-embodiment drills. Choose one action you already do daily. Making coffee, walking down the street, opening your laptop. Then perform it as if you are already the identity you're rehearsing. If your new identity is the one who gets chosen, make your morning coffee as if the mirror is already showing you as chosen. Tiny actions repeated often become grooves your system falls into without effort. Fourth tool, future memory practice. Instead of visualizing vaguely, you rehearse a specific moment as if it already happened. Not a fantasy, but a memory you're borrowing from the mirror ahead. Feel it in your body. Let your nervous system taste what it's like to have already crossed that bridge. The more real it feels, the more the reflection locks in. When you combine these tools, you create a mini protocol, bridge the belief, embody the posture, rehearse it in daily actions, and install future memories. Over time, the mirror adjusts so consistently that the old reflection begins to fade from view. And I want to hear from you, because sometimes the most powerful leaps happen when we realize we're not alone in this. Have you noticed that moment when you stopped gripping and suddenly what you wanted finally showed up? Tell me your story in the comments. Someone else might recognize their reflection in yours. But even with tools, obstacles remain. Urgency creeps in. Split signals pull you apart. The urge to control everything gets loud. So how do you handle those traps without slipping back into static? Even with tools, even with practice, the mirror can still feel stubborn. Why? Because there are 3 traps almost everyone falls into. They don't mean you're failing. They just mean your signal is getting tangled. The first trap is urgency. You feel the pressure of time. The bill is due tomorrow. The audition is in 2 days. The silence after sending that message feels unbearable. Urgency compresses your nervous system into survival mode. And when you're in survival, your signal is scrambled, your reflection distorted. The mirror only shows you more urgency. How do you shift it? By expanding time inside your body. Take 3 breaths longer than usual. Stretch your exhale until it feels like you've created a pocket of space. Tell yourself, for these next 60 seconds, nothing is missing. You're not lying. You're teaching your nervous system that the mirror doesn't require panic to adjust. And when urgency dissolves, possibilities that were invisible a moment ago begin to appear. The second trap is split signals. You want abundance, but you also believe people with money are greedy. You want love, but you secretly fear intimacy. You say one thing, but your body radiates another. The mirror can't choose which reflection to show, so it delivers static. The way through is integration. You bring the conflicting parts of yourself into one room and let them speak. Write it out. Part of me wants this. Part of me fears that. Instead of fighting, you listen. Then you create a bridge that both parts can accept. For example, I can attract abundance and remain generous. The moment your system feels agreement, the signal clears. The third trap is over-control. This is the urge to micromanage the reflection. Checking your phone every 2 minutes, rehearsing the conversation endlessly in your head, calculating outcomes like a chessboard. Over-control is exhausting, and the mirror responds by reflecting more resistance. The antidote? Surrendered action. Do the step that's yours, and then release the rest. Send the message, and then go for a walk. Apply for the job, and then cook dinner with presence. It's not laziness. It's trust. You've placed the signal, and now you allow the mirror to do its part without you clawing at the glass. Each of these traps is normal. Every human bumps into them. But the difference between staying stuck and moving forward is learning how to untangle the signal quickly. Because the moment your system returns to coherence, the mirror doesn't hesitate. It reflects the shift instantly. But knowing how to clear the signal in practice isn't enough. The real breakthrough comes when you weave this into the ordinary rhythm of daily life, so that every step, every conversation, every meal is part of the broadcast. Here's the truth. Manifestation isn't something you do for 20 minutes in the morning and then forget. The mirror doesn't switch off when your meditation ends. It's reflecting you all day, in the smallest choices, in the way you walk, in the tone you use when you speak, in how you eat your food or scroll your phone. Think about walking down the street. Most people shuffle through in a haze, shoulders hunched, mind racing, unaware of the signal they're broadcasting. But what if you walked with presence, each step an echo of the identity you're rehearsing? The mirror would have no choice but to adjust around that new posture. You'd notice different glances, different opportunities, a different current of life flowing your way. Even eating is a broadcast. If you shovel food in while worrying about what's missing, the mirror reflects scarcity and rush. If you slow down, breathe, taste, receive, it reflects sufficiency. The act of eating becomes a practice in signaling, I live in a world where there is enough. The mirror answers in kind. Conversations, too, are mirrors. If you enter with tension, rehearsing defenses in your head, the reflection comes back sharp. But if you regulate first, 3 breaths, a softened jaw, the words you receive are gentler. Not because the other person magically changed, but because the mirror is showing you the version of them that resonates with the frequency you brought. And here's the beauty. None of this requires perfection. You don't need to monitor every move. It's about weaving small threads of coherence into your day until the tapestry shifts. Walking as your future self, eating as your future self, speaking as your future self. Over time, the reflection becomes unmistakable. You're no longer practicing a role, you're living in a new mirror entirely. Integration is where manifestation becomes natural, where the practice dissolves into lifestyle. And when that happens, the field around you doesn't just shift in small ways, it begins to open in directions you couldn't have scripted. Because if the mirror is always reflecting you, then living as this new identity doesn't just tweak your day-to-day, it expands your entire horizon. Relationships, creativity, health, purpose, they all start responding differently. But expansion has a cost. It pulls you into territories where your old identity has no map. And stepping into those uncharted mirrors requires a courage most people never tap into. Once you begin living inside a new mirror, the ripple doesn't stop with small daily shifts. Entire domains of your life begin to rearrange themselves, as if the walls of your world are moving to match the new reflection. Relationships are often the first place you notice it. When your signal was scattered, you attracted dynamics that mirrored confusion, misunderstandings, inconsistent attention, conflict that repeated like clockwork. But when you embody coherence, the mirror starts offering you people who resonate with that steadiness. Old relationships either recalibrate or dissolve, and new ones arrive that reflect your deeper safety. It isn't random. It's resonance. Creativity is another mirror. Think of the last time you sat staring at a blank page, cursor blinking, mind heavy with self-doubt. That's scenario number 3, creative block. You tell yourself, I need to push harder. But the more you strain, the emptier the reflection feels. Creativity doesn't flow in response to force. It flows when your nervous system feels safe enough to let new ideas surface. Step into coherence, and suddenly inspiration arrives like a song already waiting. The block was never a lack of talent. It was the mirror reflecting a contracted state. Health, too, responds. When you live in survival mode, your body mirrors the strain, tension, fatigue, symptoms that echo stress. But when you regulate, when you breathe safety into your cells, the mirror reflects vitality. Recovery accelerates. Energy returns. It's not magic. It's your biology answering the frequency of coherence. And purpose, perhaps the most profound domain. When you're lost in static, the mirror of life looks like a maze of dead ends. But the moment you step into alignment, paths appear where none seem to exist. The right conversation, the sudden opening, the inner clarity that says, yes, This is mine. Purpose doesn't arrive as a lightning bolt. It emerges as the reflection of a self who is finally tuned to receive it. What's astonishing is how fast these expansions occur once identity stabilizes. It can feel like life is rushing to meet you, as though the mirrors had been waiting all along for you to stand in front of them. The people, ideas, opportunities, they were already present in the field. You simply hadn't aligned with the reflection that could reveal them. And this leads to a deeper realization. If the mirror keeps responding to identity and state, maybe it's not just about practical outcomes at all. Maybe manifestation points to something larger, a hidden intelligence woven into the field itself, responding to you in ways far more profound than surface desires. At some point, the mirror metaphor takes us beyond self-improvement. Because if reality is always reflecting us, then who designed the mirror in the first place? Why does it respond with such precision, not only to what we think, but to what we embody? This is where manifestation reveals its spiritual dimension. The mirror isn't just mechanical, it's intelligent. It's as if life itself is in conversation with you, moment by moment, reflecting not to punish or reward, but to guide. Every reflection becomes feedback, a living dialogue between you and something larger. Call it consciousness, the field, source, God. The name doesn't matter. What matters is that it's interactive. And here's the paradox. The tighter you try to control the reflection, the blurrier it gets. The more you relax into trust, the clearer it becomes. That's why surrender isn't weakness, it's strength. When you soften your grip, when you let the mirror reflect without demanding how it should look, you begin to see possibilities that were invisible under the strain of control. Think of how you stand in front of a mirror. If you're tense, scrutinizing every flaw, the image looks harsh. But if you soften, smile gently, breathe, suddenly the same reflection feels different. Nothing out there changed. Your relationship to the mirror did. That's surrender. This is the leap many people resist because it requires acknowledging that there's an intelligence beyond your plans, one that knows how to arrange reflections better than your fear-driven strategies ever could. You stop micromanaging outcomes, and instead you align with resonance. You show up, embody the signal, and then let the mirror surprise you. That's why some of the greatest shifts in life feel effortless, almost eerie. The job that lands without struggle. The relationship that feels like it was always meant. The timing so precise you couldn't have scripted it. These aren't accidents. They're the mirror responding to coherence plus surrender. And maybe that's the deeper point. Manifestation isn't about bending the universe to your will. It's about realizing the universe is already bending toward you the moment you stop fracturing your signal. So the question becomes, if life is this mirror, alive, intelligent, responsive, what happens when you fully trust it? What happens when you walk through the world not as someone testing if manifestation works, but as someone who knows the reflection can't help but respond? So here we are. After all the techniques, the science, the metaphors, it comes down to this. Reality is a mirror, and it has never stopped reflecting you. Every silence, every opportunity, every coincidence, every door that closed or opened, it wasn't random. It was the echo of what you were embodying in that moment. This can sound heavy at first. If the mirror has been showing scarcity, rejection, or delay, it feels like proof that something's wrong with you. But that's not the truth. The mirror doesn't judge. It doesn't punish. It simply reveals. And the power of a mirror is that the moment you shift your stance, the reflection changes instantly. You don't have to beg it. You don't have to force it. You don't even have to wait. The adjustment is immediate because the mirror cannot withhold. Think about that. The reflection is loyal. The field is faithful. The moment you step into safety, coherence, identity, surrender, the mirror recalibrates with precision. What you see around you tomorrow is the residue of yesterday's stance. What you embody today is already etching into the reflection ahead. And maybe that's the most liberating truth of all. You were never trying to get manifestation to work. It has always been working. The only question has been, what signal have you been sending into the glass? So here's the invitation as you leave this video. Don't chase the reflection, and don't fight it. Stand differently. Breathe differently. Walk differently. Let your body rehearse the skin of the one you're becoming. And then watch. Watch as the mirror begins to return a world that feels impossibly aligned, a life that feels like it was always meant for you. Because manifestation isn't a trick, it isn't luck. It's the most ordinary law of reality, reflection. And the moment you live as the signal you've been searching for, the mirror cannot help but respond.